Welcome back, Rabbi Dr. Eliezer Brut. It's a pleasure to be back with you. Me here in the United States, you in Eretz Yisrael, under a challenging time, Eis Tzari Yaakov, and we are constantly davening Mimenu Nivasheya. So last time we met, we spoke about weddings on Fridays. I actually got a text from a friend of mine who said that he was at a friend's wedding. They did this Friday wedding bit. He wasn't sure exactly why, so maybe we'll find out why they did it, but it's still done today. If anyone else has any more information, or if it's being done, or why people will do it today, we are happy to hear. And with any other comments, questions, suggestions, dedications, you can email myself, shwaidem@ou.org, or Rabbi Eliezer Brut at eliezer.brut@gmail.com. If you want to sign up for any of Rabbi Brut's pre-Yom Tif packages, where he shares all kinds of interesting information on books and articles, sign up there as well. I'm assuming the next one will be at or before Hanukkah time, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Before Hanukkah, Mitzvah Shem. Okay. And we are ready to move forward to the next episode, which will be about getting married indoors, outdoors, in shuls, controversy in the times of the Ramah. And this episode is sponsored. We'd like to thank our sponsor by Eli and Eva Genauer, in memory of Mrs. Ruth Genauer, Aleh Shalom of Seattle, Washington. Haisha Rivka Bas Harav Avraham HaKohen. May this episode and the learning and the knowledge be an aliyah for her neshama, and we thank the Genauers for this dedication. Without further ado, Rabbi Dr. Eliezer Brut, take it away.
Okay, so basically the question is where we're to get married indoors in a shul. Is it mutter to get married in a shul? Why would it be usher to get married in a shul? And if there's any reason to get married afka outside, that's going to be the main discussion. Now, of course, like everything else, Baruch Hashem, a lot of ink has been spilled on this topic, and we'll see why today. A lot of tshuvas, 3 tshuvas that I just like to point out that stand out, because not only about what they say, but also they quote a lot of information. Through them, one could find more information about this topic. We're not going to discuss every single aspect and every single tshuva about it, but one is the tshuva from Rebellia Gutmacher. We devoted a whole episode about him in general. This tshuva sefer of his from manuscript was published by Meister of Cook in the 1980s. Rabbi Yosef Zechariah Stern, who we devoted an episode about him recently in the Gittin series. So also from a manuscript of Tshuva Zecher Yehosef that Mechon Yerushalayim published. Like Kedarka B'Kodesh, he has a crazy amount of Mekayris on this topic. And not more recently, a Yid that would a guy in Olam that was nifter, died al Kiddush Hashem in the times of the Holocaust, from Menachem Kirschenbaum in a sefer Tzion LeMenachem. This is volume 2 of his Menachem Meshiv. He also has a Arichos Nifla on the Sugya Bichlal, and each one has their tremendous bekias and also analyzing the various Makairis. And one article to mention more recent is Rav Gedalia Oberlander of Muncie in his work. There's a very nice work called Minhag Avosseinu B'Yadeinu. He has a nice organized chapter on the Sugya. Mitzvah Hashem, we hope today to add some Nekudas to the Sugya, to organize it a little, and to say, to talk about it. Now, once again, Derech Agav, we're going to get some understanding of the inner workings of the Chibur of the Ramah. Okay, so without further ado, here's the story. It's like this. You open up the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, and Even Ezer Siman Samach Aleph. He talks about different aspects in Hilchos Kedushin, and then he says at the end, Yesh Oimrim Laseis Achupa Tachas Hashamayim. So Yesh Oimrim that you should get married outside. The Siman Toiv Sheyi Zaram Kechoichve Hashamayim. Be like the stars. So B'Kitzur, it's a Siman Toiv. Now, in general, there's all arichos, which we're not getting into. What's a Yesh Oimrim in the Ramah? Fine. But B'Kitzur, it sounds like a nice siman, a bracha, and people, therefore, one should not get married indoors. Indoors would mean anywhere indoors, not even in a shul. Okay. What's the source for the Ramah? So the normal place one looks is in the Darkei Moshe. The Darkei Moshe on Even Ezer was only published from manuscript in recent years. Interestingly enough, hundreds of years it was a manuscript. The Kitzur doesn't say anything. So we're stuck at this point. What is the source of the Ramah? Interestingly enough, just Derech Agav, Rabbi Kaplan, in his beautiful book called Made in Heavens, which deals all different aspects of chasana, he throws out a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, where from there he sees possibly a remez already then that the chasanas were done outside. Okay, but nothing to do with the bracha. Maybe that was the reason behind the psukim. Okay, anyway, fine. Now, there's a famous chibur called Sefer Minhagim of Rabbi Isaac Tirna. And momentarily we're going to discuss more about it. But in this Sefer, there's two parts. There's the Minhagim of Rabbi Isaac Tirna, and then there's a secondary part found on the bottom of each page, Hagayis Minhagim. At the end of the Sefer, where Rabbi Isaac Tirna talks about all the Minhagim of the year he has, in Yanim of the Chasana and these type of stuff, he says, now we know that this Sefer, both the Rabbi Isaac Tirna and these Hagayis and Hagim were a strong source of the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so Pashtus, that will be the source of the Ramah. And there's a parenthesis at the end of this piece. It says Maharam, that the Makar for this Hagayis and Hagim of Rabbi Isaac Tirna is a Maram. Who's this Maram? What is this Maram? Who added in this parenthesis? Is it from the author of the Hagayis and Hagim? Maybe someone else? It's not clear. Now, the Ramah does bring other aspects in Hilchas Chasana from this part of this Rabbi Isaac Tirna, so it could be very easily, this is his source, no big deal. Now, interestingly enough, there's a tshuva of the Maram Mintz, Simon Kuftes. He says, he's talking about, we're going to see more the context of what he's talking about, but basically he says something to the effect that Tachas HaShamayim, you do the Chasana, Tachas HaShamayim, the Nesun is Tachas HaShamayim, Kaychim, Keloimer Mayik, Zarechim, Kechoich VeHaShamayim. So Pashtus, that's the Maram, this Maram is the Makar for the Ramah. Problem is like this. Now, years-wise, it's not a problem because he's a Talmud of the Maril. But this Chibur is published in 1616. That's a long time after Ramah dies. He dies in 1573. But today, we have a beautiful edition, 2 volumes of this Chuvas Mintz. And if you look in the introduction, you'll see that the Hagayis U'Minhagim under Rabbi Isaac Tirna, he had in manuscript the Chuvas Maram Mintz. So it's very possible. So when it means Maram, in a few places, it's clear that that his source taka was the Maram Mintz. Okay. Others also had this Chibur manuscript, so it's possible. So most likely, the shaila just is: did the Ramah see the Maram Mintz, or is it just from this Hagayis and Hagam Rabbi Isaac Tirna? Okay, say that, no big deal. Now, what's going on over here? And just to give a drop of background, because this is going to play out in a few minutes to understand more what's happening. In general, when one learns Shulchan Aruch Arachaim especially, but it comes up a few times in Yeridea and Even Ezer, is Minhagim plays a very important role in the Ramah's work. He was very upset, actually, that the Beis Yosef doesn't focus a lot on this, and he writes about this in various introductions of his. Lamashal, in his introduction to Shulchan Aruch, he says that Kemat, there's nothing to add. The Beis Yosef did such a phenomenal job between his Beis Yosef and Shulchan Aruch, but what about the Menhagim Shenagu Bebindinois Elu in our places such as Poland? What do you do? That he's going to add because the Shulchan Aruch does not incorporate Menhagim of Poland and or Ashkenaz mostly. So that's one of the things that the Ramah added in. Now, there's a multiple meaning of the word minig. I'm referring to over here for Tznagei to us is things that not necessarily are the Makairis in the Gemara. This would be an example, let's say Kaparis on Erev Yom Kippur, Tashlich. These are minhagim, old minhagim, but where they come from, that's part of the conversation. The Ramah brings them in Shulchan Aruch a lot of times, and he will use certain svarim for them. Which svarim does he bring for these type of things? He brings usually from the Maril and Rabbi Isaac Tirna. And now, just to know, just basic information is, the Maril dies in 1427. He's a Talmud of Rabbi Avraham Kleisner. His Talmidim are such as the Chumas Adeshen, this Rav Moshe Mintz, and others. The Maril becomes one of the fundamental Makairis for the Ramah's Chibur, and it's going to play out in our Sugya soon. Another Chibur that the Ramah quotes very often, and he refers to as Minhagim Shalanu, is the Sefer Minhagim Rabbi Isaac Tirna, who also is a Talmud of this Rabbi Avraham Kleisner, and he dies a little later than the Maril, 1445, and his Sefer is already published in 1420. Means say B'chayav of the Maril, not published, but it's written already B'chayav of the Maril. Fine. Now, at some point, a Chibur gets attached to this, and it's unclear who wrote it and when it's exactly from, but the Ramah already, when he's using his work, Rabbi Isaac Terna, it has in it what's called the Hagais of the Hagais Chedushim, I guess it's called, on the Sefer Rabbi Isaac Terna. And it's very important, and he quotes it, he doesn't even differentiate. Okay. As I said, it's going to come out soon. We'll understand better what's the point of this introduction. Anyway, the Ramah's Talmud de Lavush, he brings this down. At the end of Shulchan Aruch Arachayim, he brings down again, based on Minhagim Rabbi Isaac Terna, Noyagin to make the chuppah outside, and so too in his Lavush on Even Ezer. The Matei Moshe, Talmud de Maril, brings a similar type of thing. Another important chibur called the Archas Chaim from Rav Buchner, also similar type of thing. So we see that this Hagais of, or if you want to call from the Mari Mintz, whatever the source is of marrying outside because of a bracha is quoted. Okay, but it's lemaisa. Does one have to do it? Let's say someone does not want to do it, or let's say it's freezing cold. So does one have to do it? That's a question that we'll try to deal with a little bit soon. Okay, fine. Now, another question is, what did they do before this Mari Mintz? Is the Mari Mintz saying that this is an old Messiah? Does he have this as an old Messiah? What did they do in the times of early Rishonim? He's Mamish Seif Rishonim. What did they do? Okay, so hopefully we'll have some answers soon. Now, problem is, already when you learn Shulchan Aruch, everyone knows, you start looking around on the Noisa Kalim on the page, and then they start making problems. The Pischei Tshuva and the Gili Marsha, they already point to that there's another Ramah. This Ramah is found in Hilchos Avelus in the Yeridea, and over there it sounds like the Ramah talks about and says as a davar pashut that where was the chasana taking place? Where did the chuppah take place? Indoors, in shul, in a basic knesses. Okay, so the lashon is avlo chuppah she'osim bebeis haknesses. Okay, fine. So Lamashal, in an early work, Ma'iri Ara, interest from a very interesting person, not for now, Rabbi Aaron Vermais. So this is published in 1827. He says as the davar pashut that the minig of Ashkenaz and Poland, both Germany and Poland, was always to make a chuppah indoors. What about the Ramah? The Ramah brings down, that there was also there's a siman tov, there's a bracha if you do it outdoors. But the ikar is what they mainly did, what the main minig was, they did it inside. And they weren't so concerned, let's say, for this bracha of the special bracha. Okay, fine. Say there at this point, there's not necessarily, it doesn't sound like there's so much at stake, whichever way you do it. So big deal. If you would ask your Rav and you didn't know anything more, okay, whatever, fine. There's a lot of different things that we do for semanim, brachas, whatever. Okay. Lamaisa, he says that if you see, this Marir says, because Lamaisa, if you look in Even Ezer, the Ramah doesn't even bring it down Darkei Moshe, so it's not like so important for him to tell you the makar for it. Okay, yeah, if you do it, yeah, if not. But the problem is that but if you don't go to Marir, there seems to be a stira. Do you do it inside in a shul, which is what was done according to one Ramah, or dafka to do it outside? So already the Tiferes Yisrael in his Hagdama, Masechta Shabbos, he has a whole long Hagdama of different things, and he ends up having a Hagdama related to Hilchos Avelus, and he brings down this Ramah, Derech Hagav, and he talks about it, and then he says that people wanted to bring a Alzeh Samchu HaChadashim, and we'll explain what that means momentarily, that Ashakol Magmasam Lidmois Sanal Mishaloi Nuchel Damis. Basically, he's saying in code, they want us to be daimit to the Goyim. So they bring a raya from this Ramah that where does the chuppah take place? In shul. But Avada, that's not true. The chuppah did not take place in shul. That's not where it took place. It took place outdoors. So he says, what's Pshat? It says in the Ramah. So he says this is a Taisa Tfus. There was a Rasha Tevis, and the Rasha Tevis was read wrong. And instead of saying, it should say B'rechayiv ha'ir, not Beis HaKnesses. So it said Beis Streichela Hey. So someone interpreted to mean Beis HaKnesses, that the Ramah was saying that where was the chuppah in the Beis HaKnesses? Says him, no, you read the Rasha Tevis wrong. An old, common, long conversation in its own right about Rasha Tevis. You got it wrong. It's B'rechayiv ha'ir. Okay, great. So far, again, we still don't see anything great that's going on. What's at stake over here? But we see already in this Tiferes Yisrael, published in 1843, that he's alluding to something's up, that there's Chadashim, that they were interested in changing something. Okay, what's going on over here? So there's a chibur from an extremely controversial person, Aaron Chorin. So in his work, he has a sefer called, he has many svarim, but one of them is called a Vak Sefer in his Ha'aris on Yeridea. So on this Ramah, he says, Mikan minik kadmoin haya lasis achupa bebeis hakneses. Then he said, what about, and then the Ramah over there in Even Ezer, that's just the bracha, but you don't have to. But the ikar is, the halach, what was the original minig? The original minig was dafka to make it in shul. Okay. Now, what's going on is that this Aaron Chorener, he is an evil person, and he was involved with the reform. And the reform, turns out, wanted to make many changes in Yiddishkeit, including areas of davening and areas of the chasana. They wanted to switch where the bima was. And this caused, in Europe in the 1800s, all hell broke loose, as they say. And there was dozens of chuvas throughout the years, especially in Hungary, and dozens of chuvas from Gedolei Olam were written about it, and it caused a lot of discussion in all different aspects. One of the things was that they wanted to do was that the goyim at the time in the church, they used to get married after in the church, so they wanted to adapt different things to be daima to them. One of those things was so they wanted to have that the chuppah should dafka be inside shul. So that's what the Tiferes Yisrael is really being meramas to, and it could be his interesting lashon. Kol magmasam ludmaisei sana lumisha loy noichli dames is because of the censor, even I'm suspecting, but I don't know. And interestingly enough, there's a Chassam Sofer that says that he heard about Aaron Chorener, who it's Yodua. The Chassam Sofer wrote and viciously fought against this person. This Nakuda that he heard that one of the things was with the chasana in the to dafka do a chuppah in shul. Okay. So now, so the point is, if you don't know anything about who Aaron Chorener is, and you look at his Avak Sefer, you say, oh, he's doing like the Piskei Tshuva and the Gilui Marsha, that they're in Hilchos, they're pointing out in Shulchan Aruch. Oh, there's another Ramah, there's a Stira. No, he's praving all from and Aaron, says they say, but the answer is no. It's much more going on behind the scenes. Okay, Lamaisa, they bring a raya from a Beis Shmuel in Siman Lamed that says it says again Rosh Hashanah Beis Hey, that it would mean Beis HaKnesses. That weird that they do the chasna in the Beis HaKnesses, but they say his makar was from a Rivash, but the Rivash does not say kedushin. It only says gittin, so he misquoted. Okay, anyway, the problem is like this: is this Toyis Atfus that the Tiferes Yisrael is suggesting true? One looks in the Darkei Moshe in Yeridea, because in Yeridea we do have the complete Darkei Moshe already for a while, and there's a whole arichos over here in the Darkei Moshe, fascinating discussion in Hilchos Avelis, because what's the shaila over there? The shaila was if an avel could go to a chasana, and a whole dion over there, and it's clear that the Rosh Tevis, this was pointed out by many different people, that the Rosh Tevis that the Tiferes Yisrael wants to suggest is not a good Rosh Tevis. It is clear that the Ramah held, that the minig in the times of the Ramah was, for the most part, they did it in shul. The chuppah took place in a shul. And different people point out, when you read very carefully the Maril, that's what's going on. Some people do try to read into the Maril similar to the Tiferes Yisrael without knowing of the Tiferes Yisrael. Mashal Rabbi Gutmacher, he has a whole tshuva where he shows the Maril that the Maril is not referring to doing it in shul or not. Okay, fine. We'll get back to it shortly. Lamaisa, already from the same Marimins that we quoted earlier, it's also in a different tshuva of his. It's also clear that where did they do it in his time? And he's a Talmud of the Maril. They did it in shul. So the point is, now you're getting on. It's a very complicated thing, because why? We have early sources that the chuppah originally took place where in shul. Lamaisa, Rabbi Yosef Zechariah Stern already in his tshuva brings down by Arichos, as I said, but one thing he brings down by Arichos is a newspaper article from Shir, where Shir was asked this question. We discussed in different episodes. Shir was Shlomo Rappaport's Rav of Prague, known as the son-in-law of the Ksais, and also a big maskil, but a frum maskil, whatever those words mean. Anyway, he was asked about this question, and he wrote a tshuva where he comes to again, what was brought up was this Maril, and someone had suggested with the Darkei Moshe and the Stiras and the Rosh Tevis, and he shows, if you learn the Maril properly, it's clear that what was the minig in the times of the Maril, they did chuppah and shul. Okay. Anyway, Rabbi Zechariah Stern talks about it more about Riches. We're not going to go into all the different pratim about this with Shir also. Now, But what's going on? What's the isser? What's the story behind it? What's happening over here? So, as I said, the outset, there's many chuvas, and time does not allow to go into all the different chuvas and put them in perspective, but we're going to quote 2 or 3 chuvas, and from there we'll be able to see all the main issues, what's going on. And that's as follows. One of the people that wrote about it, perhaps one of the first people that wrote about it, was a Yid, Reb David Zinzenheim. Okay, he was in France. At one point, he becomes one of the either Av Bezdin and the Bezdin of Napoleon. Anyway, a very chashuv Yid, a Genauer, who was a prolific writer. Most of his writings remained in manuscript, and Mechon Yerushalayim slowly has published most of his stuff on Shas, and also in more recent years, an encyclopedia that he wrote, sort of like an encyclopedia, I'll either say the Aleph Beis, called Minchas Ani, and in there is a tshuva where he discusses where should a chuppah be done inside a shul or not. So he brings down the Maril, he knows about the Maril, and he knows about the Maramintz. He knows about 2 Maramintzes. He says like this. In his day, now when is this being written? In 1809, Lo yishamanu b'shum makom lasis a chuppah in shul. So he says, what do you mean? Now, in Ashkenaz, he brings down the Ramah, and he brings the Matei Moshe, that they did it outside because of the stars. Now, he does point out, he says like this, and this was a question that I was already earlier. What is this this minig? How do you look at this minig? The answer is, this is a minig ba'alma. And if you don't want to do it, you're not an avarian. But it's a minig. It's a chashuv a minig. Now, so what happened what happened about that? At one point, it sounds like the minig was that it was done in shul. So what changed? So he basically has a whole arichos because the kalos roish and the pritzos that used to take place in a shul, and in a shul it's very chomer to have all these types of things going on. There was mixed. There was no mechitzas, let's say, at the chasana, so to speak, at the chuppah, and there'll be men and women and shmir senayim issues and all different types of things. So because of that, it's shifted and it was taken out from the shul. You say the original minig taka was like the maril. They did do it in shul, and it was removed from shul. Okay. He said not only that, a lot of times the chassan kal till they came, and so there's a lot of sicha betela in shul, shmuzing in shul. All these are very problematic because a shul is a very chamerdika place. You're not supposed to stamp shmuz there, and it has all different aspects, all hilchus of the kedusha of a shul. Okay, so therefore, it was taken away. I mean, say so to speak, it was removed from being in shul. Okay. Then he brings down, what was the meaning of Italians, early Italians, that they did it in their house? Why? Because, again, not to do it in shul. Okay. So then he says, comes along the, what about the Ramah? There's a steer in the Ramah. Ramah in one place says about the stars, and elsewhere the Ramah says not about the stars. He says, as he said, so he goes with a different Rasha Tevis. He says he also goes, it's Rechayva Ir, similar to, he's before, well before the Tferes Yisrael, that there was a Taisa Tfus, and Avada, the Ramah holds to do it outside. Okay. Now, but then he says, what's the main story behind over here? This is what I said is being alluded to in the Tferes Yisrael, but here it's much earlier, is ki yadua ki kavanas, the people that are trying to do this is because of chukas ha'amim. They want to be like the goyim. That's a very big problem. So now this gets into a whole sugya, which we once touched on a little bit with flowers. What is b'chukasei? How does it work over here? If it's originally a Jewish minig and then it becomes a Goyish minig, and we're trying to, how it works, we're not going to, that's part of the discussion, but the Bekitzer, this Minchasani is saying that that's one of the main problems. So basically, Bekitzer comes out. One big problem is that a shul became the pritzas that took place, or even the mingling or anything that's going on. A shul is not the proper place for this. So that's why it was taken away from, it should not be done in the shul. And another main issue is because the whole kavana of doing in a shul that these people were doing was to be like the Christians. Okay. Then he says, he ends off that he also wrote to some other big gedolim, such as the Baal Ikri Hadat, very chashuv gadol, another gadol, Rav Yaakov Nuas Vayis, the son of the Sich Yitzchak, which we spoke about in Yuma and Chagiga, and others. And Bekitzer, then he throws out another issue, that is the issue of women that are nida being in shul, which is also a very big problem. And it's mentioned by the various paiskim. So, Bekitzer, these are the reasons why the chuppah, it could be originally the original real minig was taka to do it in shul, but this is why it was taken, so to speak, and removed from the shul. And okay, so now the shaila is like this: So this is one mahalach, and the truth is that many years later, as again and again this keeps on coming up in Hungary and in different places, and the various chuvas that are written about this topic, they really do say these similar reasons as him, but they didn't have his sefer, as they said, it was only published in more recent years. Anyway, but let's go back to the most famous mahalach in the sugya to give us tremendous insight is from the Chassam Sofer. So before we get to the Chassam Sofer, the way the Chassam Sofer sets it up is mamish like a whole shtickle Torah, which is so. Just to give the background, is that there's a maril and a maram mintz. So the maram mintz has a whole tshuva where he discusses all different aspects about chasana. In there, he says that there was a minig, a yakasha minig, which we referred to in the previous episode, and that's known as chupas mayin. And basically, what happened is like this: that in the morning it began. It began earlier on. The vecker, so to speak, would say, "Wake up for the chuppah's main. It's about to begin," and it will begin right away in the morning. Very interesting that already in the morning it begins. Fine. And what happened is that they went to the chutzner of the shul, and everyone's following the chassan and kala to. Come, okay, great. And then, now, but they don't make the bracha at this time, but basically the chassan kala sits down in a special chair, and the whole, okay, now, at one point, the question is, okay, that's step one. Then, later on, takes place a second kedushin, which takes place. So now that took place where? In the chutzner of the shul. This already, as I said, it takes place early on in the morning. Later on in the day, basically this does take place in the shul with the kala and the chassan, and from the lashonis it's mashma. It's in front of where? The aron kodesh. So we have what's happening is in the shul there is the brachas of the chuppah is taking place. So now, what's happening is in the chuppah's main is there was two kedushin, so to speak. There was a process that took place in the morning hours, and the whole kahal, and there's elaborate different pratim. What happened with the tremendous simcha? Basically, when a chasana took place in these small towns, everyone was involved. There was singing mamish for days before the chasana, and the whole sheva brachas, and there was all different aspects. One could see them in Hagi Vermaiza of that was put out a few years ago from manuscript. Barichos, all the different pratim, what was done during this what's called chuppah's main. But the point is, something took place in the morning. That took place where? Outdoors. And then there was something that took place later on, which was actually the brachas and everything. And that took place, it sounds like not that the whole kehila went indoors necessarily, but definitely the kala was inside. The mother of the kala was for sure inside. And this took place where? In shul. Besides the Mari Mintz, his rebbe was the Maril. The Maril also talks about this barichus, and that there was two parts to the chasana, known as the chuppah's main. One took place in the morning, and another part took place in the afternoon, or later on in the day. Where did the second part take place? What's negay for us is shul. It took place in the shul. So what's happening is clear in the Maril. As we began earlier, one of the fundamental makayos for the Ramah, kedushin, the chuppah, is taking place where? In shul. Fine, great. Says the Chassam Sofer. Now the Chassam Sofer was asked about the minig of getting married in shuls or not. What's the minig today? So interestingly enough, it seemed this tshuva was written towards the end of the lifetime of the Chassam Sofer in 1835, and we already said that this has already happened in the early 1800s. Okay, so what does the Ramah say? So what does the Chassam Sofer say? So first he brings down the Ramah. He says, what's the makar of the Ramah? Sheish Dvarim is the Maramintz. But he says, if you look in the Maramintz, it's something strange going on. In one place, it sounds like it's packed in front of the Aron HaKodesh. Mean to say that where was the chuppah taking place in shul. But later on, the Mari Mintz ends off, something that I quoted all the way in the beginning, that he's the makar of the whole story that we're talking about today, that what do? Because of Atzlacha, but they have Tachas HaShamayim, the Kakavim, they do outdoors. So it sounds like what? Where is the chuppah taking place? Outdoors. So make up your mind. Mari Mintz, is it taking place in front of the Aron Kodesh or outdoors to get this bracha of this with the stars? So says the Chassam Sofer, if you look inside, he looked inside the Maril, who's the Makar, he's the Rebbe of his, and he says that if you know the Chassam Sofer Ki Yadua, it was Ish Frankfurt, and in Frankfurt they do Chuppah's Main. even in the times of the Chassam Sofer. So if you know what's going on, what's Chuppah's main, says the Chassam Sofer, Kol Muvan. And there's no stira. There was a 2-part kedushin. So Mary Mintz is referring to the 2 steps. One part took place when outdoors, and that's when you have the bracha aspect. One part took place when inside the shul. So the part that's inside the shul, but what's clear is the Chassam Sofer is not denying. According to Mary Mintz, according to the Maril, part of the chuppah took place in shul, and there's a bracha outside. So now he says like this. So basically, what happened over here is the Chassam Sofer says, if you look carefully, there's no stira in Mary Mintz. It's sort of like a 2 dinim. There's 2 aspects to the kedushin that took place, the German minhagim of kedushin. And he says, where's the makairos for this from? Early Rishainim. He says it's early from Taisus and Rashi and all this type of stuff. And basically is like this, that there's a siman taiv why are we doing it outside? So the Chassam Sofer, with his powerful shyness, he throws out the concept of pile dimyain lahamshich habracha b'shah haruya. So therefore, they did the chuppah outdoors in front of the stars. So what's going on is like this. Be'etzem, the Chassam Sofer says in this tshuva, there is a shul, there's a makom kadosh, a makom for davening. So there is something behind Be'etzem doing it in a shul. And that's what they did. They did the old minig, which Maril, Mary Mintz, and the Frankfurt minig that he was very well aware of. He was proud of being Ish Frankfurt, the Chassam Sofer. That was when that there's an aspect to be done outside, but there's also an aspect to be done. So what's happening is like this. I'm sorry, I got lost because of the heat. It threw me off over here, but I apologize. But basically, it's like this. He says is that in the Ramaz area they didn't do chuppahs main. Pilon, they did not have this minig, so therefore they did it outside. So therefore, when they did it outside, Taka, it was done Tachsa Shamayim, Mary Mintz of the Bracha, and that was at the Ramah. Whereas the Yekish Minig, slash Maril, slash the Mary Mintz, they did it. There was a 2-part. One part was Taka done in shul. One part of this Chuppah's mine was done outdoors. Okay. Now, what's going on in the Chassam Sofer? There's obviously a lot of things happening in the Chassam Sofer, but the Chassam Sofer he concludes with is something called of Yotzim Biyad Ramah. That there's a power, once it's a Ramah, there's a power of the minig in the Ramah, and we go with that all the way, and you're not supposed to be Mashaned and everything, but he says as follows. He says like this. He says, V'narchek mimenu meskaven lulmai midarke umas oilam asher lo nizvarchu b'koichavim zivugim bebeis tfilasam yikamoisim v'amazavim lebrachas avoisim yitzetzei meim. Basically he's alluding to this whole point, that the kavana of the people, such as Aaron Chorner and others of the Reform, they wanted to be Medama to the Goyim. So they said, we're quote unquote hiding behind, we're doing the Maril, we want to do Dafkan Shul. Says Chassam Sofer, no. Even the Maril and the Mary Mintz, they talk about, they're concerned, part of it was done outdoors. And there's a special aspect to get a bracha outside from Shammai. Now, what is the Chassam Sofer actually explains it. I said, Lasis Pula Dimyon, what does that mean? There's a concept based on various Rishonim, the Ramban and the Chinuch, which is that we do certain minhagim, we do pu'ulas down here so that we could get the bracha from upstairs. Hashem Yisbarach, we do a minig, we do a pu'ula down here, and that triggers and helps get the bracha down here. Just to give one simple dugma, people have a minig by Paiseh Hasyedecha, so it's a school for Parnasa. So when they say Paiseh Hasyedecha and Ashrei, they open up their hands. So it's brought in earlier sources to open up your hands. Why? So it's explained is when you open up your hands, it's a symbolic thing down here that causes the kaichas upstairs to pile down here. So the Chassam Sofer, who goes with this concept, there's many other sources for this, and it's the story behind many other minhagim. And interestingly enough, a Talmud of his, Rabbi Yisrael Margolis, when he discusses this sugya of chuppah being done dafka outdoors, he explains this whole thing with Kaychavim because he knew about the Maril and Mary Mintz. I'm not sure if he knew about the Tshuva, the Chassam Sofer at the time, but anyway, the point is, there's a Mayrdika aspect that and you need to do it. You do it outdoors, and that causes a pula or outside. So the shefa that comes down, and that pula, so to speak, helps give us this great bracha. But the point is, we're seeing a lot of things happening to Chassam Sofer. Not to go through all the different aspects. One is he doesn't deal with there's a taisa tfus. He's straight up admitting the Maril is in the times of Maril, it was taka done in shul. Part of it was done in shul. Okay. And you see here, he's giving, if you just learn to marry mints or the Isaac Terna, it's a nice thing to do it outside. The way the Chassam Sofer is understanding it, he's adding in a whole new deher, a whole new depth to it that there's importance for, and we find in many minhagim this is what we're doing. Some people say lamashal when we're eating the samanim. Originally, it seems the minhag might have been on Rosh Hashanah when you eat samanim at night just to see it. Others say no, dafka to eat it. Why? Because when you do a pu'ula and you say it to feel at the same time, it helps. Okay. Anyway, bottom line is, we have this Chuppah L'Chassam Sofer, and this Chuppah L'Chassam Sofer was not as in the early years, so to speak. It's only published, as I mentioned, in the 1850s. So before it's published in Hungary, they mamish fought the whole time, and they say the B'chukei issue, which we mentioned, because it's being medama to the Goyim, and they bring up another issue that comes up in the various chuvas, such as from Rabbi Yehuda Assad, and is this tremendous problem of pritzas in a shul, and a shul is not meant to have to be mezalzel in a shul and stuff like that. You're not supposed to do that. There's merdika halachas behind the covet one has to have in shul. Eating, schmoozing, all these things should not take place in shul. So therefore, the chuppah got out of hand, so to speak, and therefore they held to stop it. Okay, now just to mention a few yedias to explain the different pratim over here, and that will be reached our conclusion. Like this. Chuppah's main, I said that this was a well done, it's well documented by Shlomo Hamburger in Shashim and Ashkenaz. He talks all about it. Fine. But it's clear one thing is clear, there were Makairis that he did it in Shul. Fine. Lamashal, interestingly enough, what about Krakow, the city of the Ramah? So there's sources, Reb Shlomo Shik, the Chassam Sofer, they say, in Krakow in the late 1800s, they did it, we are in Shul. Sounding like, not doing like the Ramah's Grace Skula, which according to Chassam Sofer is a Ma'ir thing. Others did it not in shul, but they did it indoors. There was a special house that they had. It sounds like in Italy, this was a thing that they did. Okay, fine. Lamashal, I quoted earlier that what's the minig in Ashkenaz? So the whole time I'm going, Maril and all these people. What did they do earlier? So it seems clear there's plenty of Makairis. Rebelli Gutmacher brings down a Taisis and a Rai from the Rush, and Yukasil Grunwald brings this down, and others, that they did it indoors. To say this whole segula of the Chassam Sofer, or really not, I'm calling it the Chassam Sofer because the Chassam Sofer is giving us a Havana in it, but this whole concept of doing it outdoors only comes much later on from the Ravins. But let's say Taisis earlier on, and others, they are not aware of it. Okay. Rabbi Yisrael Margolis, I mentioned earlier, is a Talmud Chassam Sofer. He publishes a Sefer Mechulas Machanayim, which is attacking the various things that the Reform people wanted to bring into davening and all different changes. So basically, in 1859, he publishes one such Sefer, 1861 another such Sefer. He has a long list of over 7 different things, all different reasons for why one should not do it inside the chuppah. He goes through the sugya, and one of the aspects I mentioned earlier. Okay. Now, but what's happening is in Hungary, the Gedolim, even the ones that didn't yet see the Chuppah L'Chassam Sofer, and especially once they do see the Chuppah L'Chassam Sofer, they fight against this minute. Okay, which makes a lot of sense. Hold on. Now, Rebelli Gutmacher, which is Ashkenaz, he says also that the minig in his time, and he refers to his Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Where did they do it? They did it outdoors. Interestingly enough, when we're talking about Ashkenaz, so okay, yeah, we have the Maril, we have the Mintz. I said Minhag Vermeisa, Shamshon Fal Hirsch. A few years back, they published a Sefer Shemesh Marpa, which is Chuvas of Shamshon Fal Hirsch. And one of the chashivasim for many people was that everyone knew Reb Shamshon Fal Hirsch was a tremendous guy, but they didn't know in learning so much. All of a sudden, you get a bunch of chuvas of his, and it opened up to a lot of people that were pessimistic about him. Oh, he's a philosopher, he's a this or that. Okay. Anyway, he has 2 chuvas on our topic, and what does he come out? He goes at the Maril, and he says he does the minig of Ashkenaz, which is what? To do it indoors. And yeah, he knows about the Ramah, but he says we go like the Maril. Now, interestingly enough, even the Chassam Sofer, I said, he doesn't dismiss the Maril. He has a whole shtickle Torah, and he says what happened, fine. But Maril, as I began in the is one of the most fundamental things for which the Chibur of the Ramah. So the shaila is what the Ramah does, and that we said that's part of the discussion over here, and how the Chassam Sofer understands it. But L'mashal Rabbi Yehuda Assad, he's like, okay, the Maril did it in shul, but what's happened is just because the Maril did it, we should do it. It sounds very strange to say such a lashon. I think in the heat of the machlokes and I'll sort of out the kanoish about that's what caused him to say such a thing, because we know Maril is beyond fundamental for the Ramah. Okay, just three last pratim, and we'll conclude. Number one, what about Lita? So first, there's a fascinating tshuva sefer Sheris Yaakov from Yaakov Kahana. He has a whole long list of reasons against doing a chuppah in shul, some original reasons that he came up with. He goes with the Chassam Sofer, and he has a long list over there of how powerful Chassam Sofer and minhag goes. Now, in general, the Litvisher world, some people don't realize this, but the Litvisher world, the big Gedolim, they were very into the Chassam Sofer, the Aderes, Remartch Gimpel Yafi, and others. And over here, you see this Tshuva Sefer of the Sheres Yaakov, he also very into the Chassam Sofer. Okay, so this Tshuva, the Chassam Sofer, the point is, the Chassam Sofer was not going like the Mahalach of others, that there was no taking place of a chasana in a shul in the times. No, in the times of the Meril they did, and in times of the Rarians they did. Something changed, okay. Another maramakim about this is the L'mashal Aruch HaShulchan. He says, when he's talking about, he brings down the Ramah, and he says, Chadashim mikarv bo l'shaneis minhagei Yisrael l'zdamois, and then he says v'chulu. Again, this is because of the censor, because they want to be ve'ein roitzim bebracha l'hamer chuppah tachzeh shmayim v'yadam al tachtoina v'yad mekaymei minhag Yisrael al elyoina. Those that want to do the minhag of Yisrael is el yoina. So you see, what happens is that once it gets into the halachic work, the canon of halacha, so to speak, dafka to do it with outdoors. So the Aruch HaShulchan says that that those want to be mishane minhag Yisrael, but it's not so simple. As we said, the Maril and Marimins, the earlier Makairis, sounds like that it was done indoors. Okay. Anyway, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac, the Rav Herzog in Chuvas Heichel Yitzchak has a beautiful tshuva about this, and he says, in Poland, where I grew up, in Lita, Russia, until I think it's World War I, maybe, outdoors, and no one asked about it. And then he talks about, again, he brings up the Pritzes and Shul, and this is going much later. This is in the early 1900s. Okay. Lamaisa, two last ideas, and we'll conclude. One is America. So in America, it became it's much more complex. What happened? Is it really? Say maybe in the 1800s there was a whole battle of reform, and the Christians. The shaila is how do you look at what is done today? Does it play a role once it's changed that you should not do it outdoor? That you cannot do it in a shul, and this is a question that the Paiskim today deal with. And many just go with, once it's the Chassam Sofer and all the Hungarian Paiskim, we go with them. Interestingly enough, Rabbi Kasil Greenwald has a whole tshuva about it. He was writing about someone else that wrote a tshuva in America where he dafka in the freezing cold, he did it outside, and Rabbi Kasil Greenwald wrote a whole tshuva it's a whole very interesting tshuva going through the whole sugya that he didn't necessarily have to do ad kedei kach. Okay, last idea on this, last two ideas is Svardim. Interestingly enough, they do it indoors. They did not accept this. They don't have makayos of this minhag. As I said early on, the whole minhag of Maril, these chiburim weren't even in the library, so to speak, of the Beis Yosef. And earlier, and there's often a Knesset Agdayla, he says, he brings down the Mati Moshe, the Knesset Agdayla, but he says, we don't do like this. And Lamaiser Badi Yosef has a whole tshuva about it. He brings all the Hungarian tshuvas and he handles all the discussion, but the minhag of the Svardim was it seems they might even actually done it in shuls. And this whole discussion was not negated to them. And then just to conclude with one last thing is that I mentioned in the past that there was a Rav Kook and Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld traveled to visit the kibbutzim in the early 1900s, and they someone wrote up a whole the whole travels, all the stories, whatever they happened, and all the different halacha discussions. And when they got to a certain kibbutz, what happened was that the chuppahs used to take place where in shul was convenient, and Rav Kook said, no, you have to stop it. He said, no, you should do it outside. And this was already, this sack of Rav Kook was found, it could be found in the travels of Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld and Rav Kook, and there's other letters of Rav Kook also going with a similar type of thing, not to do it in a shul. As I said, Rav Herzog also not to do it in a shul. Okay, there's as like every other topic, there's many other marmakaimis, there's many other aspects to the topic, but this is just a taste of some of the aspects to the story.
Okay, thank you very much, Rabbi Dr. Eliezer Brut. Would you like to share, before we depart, a brief sefer? I actually personally have gone out and purchased the sefer from Rabbi Avishai David. Has a lot of fascinating information, especially I see his English language vocabulary is bar none, and the way he describes a certain colorful description, the way he ties in Mamori Chazal and ideas, is very, very interesting.
Yes.
I actually also have looked for the book from Rabbi Luban, the sefer from Rabbi Luban. It wasn't in the store, but they should be getting it back. So thank you for those two book recommendations. Anything you'd like to share today?
Yes, I'll just share one brief. Okay, one sefer. This came out right before Yom Kippur. It's called Sidrei Mayadais. From who? From the Adaris. So this sefer is how many before the even without it's over 700 pages with maftechas, and basically like this. What happened? The story of this sefer, very briefly, is that there's a machon, a Sephardi machon actually in Eretz Yisrael called Shuvi Nafshi. They publish a few svarim every year, and they publish a weekly gillion of stuff from manuscript of Sephardi Gedolim, Litvish Gedolim, Hasidish Gedolim, whatever they have manuscripts of. Right before Yom Kippur, they announce. And from time to time, they publish even, let's say, pieces from the Adaris. They have published a few things. They own Kisveyad of the Adaris. The Adaris was famous for being the father-in-law of Rav Kook, but he was a great Gaon in Lita in the time, very close with all the different Gedolim, Lamashal the Netziv, and others. And he ends up Seif Yam becoming the Rav in Yerushalayim. He was a Rav of Mir, and he was a Gaon Olam, beyond prolific writer. He wrote dozens and dozens of svarim on all different topics. And Mirz Hashem, I hope one day to devote a series to him. All his svarim, all different things about him. But what happened? He was prolific, but he did not publish anything in his lifetime. Many of these items survived, and they're all over the world in private hands and everything like that. There are people that have them, and b'shum panim v'ofen, they will not give them out. And other people have them, and they do give them out. And from time to time, works come out. A few years back, something like 8-9 works of the Adaris came out in 1 year. It was known as the Year of the Adaris. Anyway, there's been a drought of Adaris for a bunch of years. All of a sudden, you see Erev Yom Kippur, 2 days before Yom Kippur, Shuvi Nafshi says we have this massive work. It's on Mayadim, starting from Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Chanukah, and a bunch of other things. Haaretz and Shulchan Aruch, drushes that he gave, all types of things. They have more material they hope to publish, and this is a beautiful work for those that are interested in this type of material. The Adaris. For me, it was the second I got the email that they have this thing, I right away emailed them and asked them, it's about to be Yom Kippur, but how am I going to have a Yom Kippur without having this Adaris chibur? And I made them crazy till I got it. Baruch Hashem, before Yom Kippur, I already had it, and it has materials for Sukkot, and it has material for the upcoming Chanukah and other aspects of the year. Okay, that was the work that I. It's a great simcha for me when I came out, and just wanted to mention.
Okay, thanks for sharing that simcha during this time. And again, thank you for the Genauers for sponsoring this share. We appreciate the dedication. And may we only share good news and meet in better circumstances in the very near future. Thank you.